Good morning, South Rock, and welcome to the first of a series of devotions leading up to the Christmas season. I always start these videos going, good morning and welcome to another Acts devotion, good morning, welcome to another Mark devotion. I'm gonna have to figure out a word to say for good morning, South Rock, and welcome to another going into Christmas Devo, but that's what we're doing. We're starting in Genesis 3 today, Genesis 3, 8 through 15. Now this is a harrowing couple verses about the fall of mankind. So basically God has created paradise, he created everything, then he created man and saw that that was very good, created Eve, and then man and Eve, Adam and Eve, were convinced by the serpent, by Satan, to sin and be separated from God. So the reason this happens is God creates man perfectly. And because there's perfection, we could be in the presence of God in that moment. So when we get to heaven, we will be perfected so that we can be in the presence of God. This is why people die in the Bible when they come into contact with the presence of God, or they touch the Ark of the Covenant, because that's where the presence of the Lord is, because they are so imperfect and so far away from this presence of God that when they come into contact with it, they immediately die. So in the Bible, in the beginning of creation, Adam and Eve are able to walk with God, walk with the presence of God, because they have been made perfectly by God. Now, when they eat of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, this separates them from God. Their sinfulness tears them out of perfection. And so they are no longer able to commune with God in this way. And so they realize all sorts of different things, good and evil. They realize they're naked. They realize they have shame. They can see that there's good that can be done, but they also realize there's bad that can be done. So there's now sin has entered the picture. And the serpent is the one that has helped introduce this. He kind of coaxed both of them. A lot of times we say it was just Eve, but he coaxed both of them into eating. And where this becomes a Christmas story, where this begins to shape into the incarnation, is when God says to the serpent, in verse 15, he says this, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." Now those last two verses, or those last two lines, "he shall bruise your head and you shall bruise his heel," are called the proto-evangelium. These are two Greek words, proto and evangelion or evangelium, which literally means the first good news or the first gospel. Because for a long time, this is believed to be God already putting the plan into motion. He says he sees that they have sinned, and moments later, verses later, he goes, you know what I'm gonna do? Satan, I'm going to defeat you with the offspring of mankind, and by providing mankind the ultimate son, the Son of Man himself, the incarnate Son of Man, Jesus. And so that's why this is the proto-evangelium, the first gospel. God says and declares the first good news. You will be crushed. You might crush him, you might bruise his heel, but he's going to crush your head. In my Bible it says bruise head and bruise heel, but still. And so that is how this relates to the incarnation, because it's the first telling of that. Now, question of the day. Whenever I read this, my first thought is the word intentional. Because from the beginning, from chapter 3 of Genesis, God went, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna redeem them. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna save them from themselves, from sin, and bring them back to me. And I think of the word intentional. God did this intentionally. He knew what to do immediately. And so that's the question of the day. How can you reflect God? How can you be more like God and Jesus? How can you be more intentional today? Now, that could be a lot of things. We could slow down and think about what the next step is. We can slow down and pray more. We could purposely stop and reread the text of the day and commit that to memory or commit that to our minds. We can slow down and talk to somebody about Jesus. There's all sorts of ways to be more intentional, to be more planned out, to be more thorough in our faith and our actions. How can you be more intentional today? Just like God was with his plan to redeem mankind from Genesis 3. So I hope you have a good Monday, and I'll see you next time.